Oh boy, it's time to get depressed again, because today we're going to be talking about Craig the PC, the thing that's running this monitor and the thing that runs this whole production, and it kind of makes me sad every time I think about how much money I've spent on it, but that's okay, because today I want to see if I've actually done a good job, like buying everything and priced all right, and it turns out I've kind of done okay. If you don't know about Craig, though, and all his magical parts and everything that I love about him, please check that video right up there. It'll be in the description probably as well. But if you already have, let's get going. Breaking out the PC part liquor. Breaking out the PC part picker list. Oh boy, oh boy. For the CPU, it's the Core i5 2500K. It's nothing too special. It originally came with the system. It's what I'm using now. We have the Craiglist H7, which I bought for $35 at the time, but has definitely jumped up in price lately. I don't know what that's about. This Asus board, the P8Z68V Pro, it's just a decent Z68 board for the time. The pictures are kind of small, unfortunately. Going back to the parts lists, we have the Corsair kit of memory that originally came with the system, but it's just standard DDR3 1333 megahertz. You can't really overclock this kit, unfortunately. Then we have the Mushkin Stealth 8 gig kit. I use this in the system as well. It's 2133 megahertz. It was $80 though. That's a lot of money. I probably shouldn't have spent that much money on DDR3 RAM now that I think about it. We have this Agility OCZ drive, 126 gigs. Came with the system, so I mean, I'm definitely cool with that. Next, we have this ADATA drive, the Premiere Pro SP600, 256 gigabyte. It still goes for around $70. I paid about $72 for it when I got it, so you know, it's not too much of a price difference. Next up, we have this Western Digital 500 gigabyte drive because I actually don't know what it is. It came with the system, but because it's so small, we got this Toshiba drive, the P300 2 terabyte. It's about $55 now. Wow, hard drive prices went down. It was a good deal at the time. I think it was probably the cheapest, like, not knockoff thing on Amazon. That wasn't like a used Hitachi drive, so definitely one there. Then, of course, our EVGA GTX 1080 that I got for $300-ish, $315 if you count the shipping about, so however you want to calculate that price. This Be Quiet Pure Base 600, $0. I got the case for free at a LAN party. It's just such a nice case. Like, there's not a lot of pictures, but it looks nice. Doesn't have the best cooling performance, but it's quiet as all hell. And last but not least, the power supply, the EVGA Supernova G3750. It's all right. It's definitely a great performer. It has fully modular cables. You can get custom sleeved if you want for decent prices. It has this like eco mode. It has nice black sleeved cables, but I think they're kind of hindered by the caps that are inside of them, capacitors. Other than that, it's like anywhere from like $70 with a rebate to like $100 right now. I think it's on sale maybe, but I did buy it for $120, which is about MSRP. I just needed a new power supply at the time. And so the original cost of the system was about $460, which means the overall price of the system is like $1,000. 1,100. It should be like closer to 1,200 because I did pay about $20 for a case before this one. God, it hurts. But that's all right. I think what we're about to see can lessen the pain a little bit, but it still hurts. So now, let's try and build it again. Basically, what I did is I went online, tried to find all the parts that would kind of fit what Craig is as a system. I just wanted to try and figure out if I could build a similar PC now using eBay and all that fun stuff, maybe even new parts. For the CPU, it is the Core i5. You could probably spend about $30 or more depending on where you get a good deal at to get an i7 from the Sandy Bridge generation. I think it probably be about $50 more if you do want to get an Ivy Bridge i7. Next up is the cooler, the Arctic Freezer 33 Esports 1. It's nothing too special, black and yellow. I think it looks pretty slick, honestly, especially considering the price. We have a copper base, which is always nice when it comes to coolers because it conducts heat a little bit better. It just looks like a solid contender, especially for the price, $33. It has mounting kits for just about every single socket under the sun that's modern. $33 at Newegg. So now if you're on eBay, you can find a P67 motherboard for around $75, give or take, somewhere between 65 to 85, and after that you're going to be hitting the Z68 series, which is around $100. And honestly, just grab a P board if you're going to be grabbing this chip. That chipset is good for RAM and CPU overclocking, I believe, and that's all you need. It might not overclock as well, but as long as you have a decent cooling solution, it'll probably work out just fine. Next up, 16 gigabytes of DDR3. You can find this for around $60 or so on HardwareSwap. You can just find other RAM on eBay if you can't find any on HardwareSwap for some reason. But 16 gigs is what I personally use, and I think just grab that for DDR3. It's really cheap right now. It's cheaper than what I paid for 8 gigabytes. Next up, storage solution. I went for just a really cheap 480 gigabyte SSD. I wanted enough space for the OS. I wanted enough space for games that you want fast load times on, and it's a lot more SSD space than I currently have in my personal system, and it comes in a lot cheaper, and just a little bit cheaper than two 240 to 256 drives. So I mean, honestly, $80. It's an 8 drive. If we take a look, it looks all right. It's visually appealing. You're probably going to be throwing this in like the back of your case if you're getting a more modern case anyway, so you're not going to see it. And then we have two Seagate Barracuda 2 terabyte drives coming in at about $58 each on Amazon. You know, it's just a standard 7200 RPM drive. These are known to last a while. They perform really well, but the two drives work a little bit better because you can have one dedicated to just games and then one for like recording and YouTube and all that fun stuff, because I think it'll last a little bit longer. And especially if you're playing a lot of games off the hard drive, you're not going to wear down the drive as much. And I'm currently scared of that with my current gaming and recording situation. So grab 2 hard drives, please. Next up, the graphics card. I put in a parametric filter from this PC part picker list. I just went lowest price and GTX 1070 Ti, 1080 Ti. If we take a look at this card, it is the 1070 Ti EVGA Black Edition, the ACX 3.0, I believe. I don't know if it's an ICX card. I don't believe so, but it looks alright. I don't think it's going to clock too high, but it's a 1070 Ti at $429, $430. Not bad for this card. Next up, case. I just went inside PC Part Picker, found a case that looked like it could support everything that I threw at it, and the Fractal Design Focus G Black came out. It looks good. Honestly, cases are so unique and personalized that you choose one for yourself. This is just fit within the budget and the idea of this whole case. Good airflow. You know, you can fit in your DVD drives if you really care about that. It's not gonna be too flashy, but it's Fractal Design case. They're usually built well, and I think this will serve almost anybody for any sort of build that they might be putting together. And last but not least, the power supply. Wow, so this is a TX 650M from Corsair. It's semi-modular, braided cables. It's gold, I believe. The power supply was a really hard one for me because I don't want to spend too much, but at the same time, skipping out on a power supply can be really deadly to a system. If you go onto PC Part PC Part Licker. That's like the 5th time I've done this recording. If you go onto PC Part Picker, I just went with a minimum wattage of 600. I got a full or semi-modular power supply with 80 plus gold, mostly because of the 1070 Ti. Pick and choose, do your research on power supplies. Definitely check out power supply reviews from like Johnny Guru, Tom's Hardware, whoever you can find. I've seen some recommendations for that TX power supply that I showed you guys for this build. This one's around $70, and I just think it'll probably last the system for a while. It'll probably do anybody who gets a really solid job, especially because you're doing both new and used parts in this build. So our total is around $960. Not too bad. Shaved off like almost $200. Yeah. Yeah. $200. So there's a couple of things that can explain this. One, I didn't include a keyboard in this price. The original cost of the system that I parted out was $460, and that included this mechanical keyboard. It's like worth maybe $40 now. It's the Razer Black Widow Ultimate, I think. Yeah, 2014 edition. A like $60 keyboard mechanical, that'll drive the price up, but you're still saving like $100 to $150 if you're buying used and you want to replicate this build. That being said, I don't recommend this at all. There's so much better you can do used or new. Like, of course you could get the i7, and I think this would make such a better build, even though it's on an older platform. 4 cores, 8 threads would serve a 1070 Ti, a 1080 so much better, especially in modern gaming. But personally, I play at 1080p, I video edit, I stream, and i7, while it can kind of work a little bit better in video editing, I don't think it's going to be the best streamer, and I don't like streaming off video cards, even though people do that. So that is where this build comes in. This is the $1,000 new build. If you're spending $1,000, honestly, that'll work so much better new. It'll give you warranties. It'll allow you to just make sure all the parts are up to date, working, to have the best specs, to have the best driver support, all that fun stuff. A lot of the parts will probably last you a lot longer, and if you're spending $1,000, I want these parts to be lasting you a while. So let's go looking at this list. First, we have this AMD Ryzen 2600. The decent CPU. What can I say? 6 cores, 12 threads. If you want to spend more money, I think it's like way too much right now, though. I think the 2600X goes for around 200, 230, somewhere around there. I just don't think it's worth the money. You could just do a lot more with the amount of money between the 2600 and 2600X. There's so much more that you could do. We're not including a cooler with this one just because the CPU comes with the cooler. If you did, I would recommend, of course, one of those coolers, the Arctic, one of the Cryorig coolers. There's a lot of other coolers on the market. Spend between $30 to $50 on a cooler, and you'll probably get some good performance out of this system. Next up, I wanted a B450 board. This is because even though a lot of B350 boards on the market will be Ryzen 2 ready, it can be hit or miss. So I chose this Tomahawk board. A couple of reasons. One, it has a decent VRM layout. You're not going to be pushing the system too far, especially if you're using the stock CPU, cooler. So a 4x2 VRM solution is decent enough. It has an M.2 slot. So yeah, decent board. You're probably not going to be using all the USB ports. If for some reason you need more USB ports, there's other boards out there. ASRock tends to have a little bit more USB ports on their boards right now. There are cheaper boards. Pick your poison. Then we got this G-Skill Aegis 16 gigabytes. Fits well with the black. It's black and red. I think it looks cool-ish. It fits well with the board, and I think it'll fit well with the rest of the system. It's just a decent kit. DDR3 3000. I would double check, though. Make sure you have a kit that's compatible with the motherboard, but B450 and Ryzen 2000 in general just has so much better memory support that I think you can probably find a decent kit like this, maybe even a cheaper kit, and it'll work right out of the box with XMP profiles. Storage, almost the same thing as the last build, except I cut out another hard drive. You could put in another Seagate drive if you wanted to. It depends on what you're doing. I think this is a great gaming build and streaming build. Maybe not so much for just like recording gameplay, just because you don't have that other drive. But I think since you have a lot more room for games on the SSD, it might not be too much of a problem. So for the video cards, I had a parametric filter for GTX 1066GB, RX 580, and RX 570. The RX 570 doesn't hit the 1060 as well, but I mean, we have this 550 on here and 580, and it works well. It looks all right. I don't expect this cooler to be the best. It has decent I/O. I mean, it's a 588 gigabyte. It's going to perform really well, especially at 1080p, maybe even 1440p. If you do want to go green team, I recommend a 1060. But the only thing this would affect in terms of, let's say, video editing is that CUDA is just slightly better when it comes to Adobe performance and all that. And then I believe streaming, AMD's encoder isn't as well as the GPU solution NV encoder on NVIDIA. Keep switching up these brands. Honestly, you have a 6-core CPU, you can probably get away with streaming on that. You have so much better options for content creation and everything on this system. Case, we have the Fractal Design Meshify C. Again, cases are very personal. It looks cool in my opinion. I like the white. I think it would go well with the motherboard, just that contrast. So, I mean, if you don't like this case, again, pick another one. But it has great airflow. I do realize that I picked 2 Fractal cases, but I think it'll work well. If you want a black version of this case, there are black versions. If you don't want a side panel window, you can get that as well. Last but not least, power supply. Seasonic 520 80+. You know, fully modular. Its power supply isn't the best. It works well. You don't have like too high end of components. This power supply isn't going to fail you, but there are definitely a lot more efficient power supplies out there. Again, power supplies, definitely do your research, but I think this one will do really well considering the price point. Altogether, the system prices out well. Again, about the same price as if I were to build Craig again, and I would definitely take this build over another Craig. I did try to stay away from sales a little bit for this video, but again, there's so many sales happening, you can find parts for better prices than you probably could right here. This build is definitely going to be better for content creation. I think CPU performance is just way better. I can render out videos faster. If I were to have this computer, I could probably play games with a little bit better lows. It's definitely a lot more well-rounded than Craig, or if we were trying to rebuild Craig. I will leave links to all these down to the description. My current build, Craig if you were to rebuild him, and this new build. If you have any questions or comments about why I chose any of these parts, how I figured out some of the prices, again, leave it down there. If you like taking a look at doing like used builds and new builds and like the price difference and what performance you can get, leave a like. Dislike it if for some reason you think I'm stupid and I don't know what I'm talking about. If you want to see more of my content, hit that subscribe button. It'll be somewhere over here. And then check out one of the videos on the side. The one will be one I recommend to you, which is me talking about Craig, and the one will be one YouTube recommends to you. Check out all my links down below for my Twitter, Instagram, and everything else I do on the internet. My name is gregandcin, and you thought I wasn't going to talk about Ditto. Look at him. He's just so happy. He likes PCs.